This week, I chat with Reena Friedman. We chat about booking guests and networking.
If you connect with the people who love them, when the episode comes out, you can revisit them and be like, hey, check it out. Like, you
Oh,
might enjoy this conversation. And then you've got 5 more people to send it to.
podcast growth.
It's like finding out different ways to collaborate with the same people because that's how your retention is high and that's how you build upon the relationships.
Ideas for how people can come together and achieve fantastic results.
Would you be interested in doing a swap for 50,000 impressions? And I was like, well,
She spills secret on how she's booked sensational and hard to get guests such as
that's how I was able to get her Barbara Corcoran as well. Able to get Jerry Springer, truthfully.
Reena has a God-given talent for connecting people and building communities.
You do a really good interview of someone's best friend or someone's best work colleague and you do a really good job, then they'll be like, oh my God, I loved that episode. Would you consider interviewing me? Like I've had that happen multiple times.
Reena has worked in radio and on reality TV shows such as The Jerry Springer Show, Court TV, and Nanny 911.
When you're able to go through hundreds of calls and get people to hop on a plane and spill their story on national television, then you're like, oh my God.
She's also the host of Better Call Daddy podcast. Now, let's begin the episode. You host a show called Better Call Daddy. Your daddy seems to have a quick solution, quick fix for all your problems. Is that true?
Oh my gosh, I even thought about calling him right before this. Yes.
He's your cheerleader.
He is. And I value his advice and perspective. And I may not always agree with him, but he's always there.
Now that you just mentioned, even if you don't agree with his opinions, has it ever happened that you and your dad had, different opinions over an episode? Like he gives his commentary after you record an episode. How did you deal with that?
Yeah, I do give him pushback. And sometimes his reactions, I'm like, dude, like, I cannot believe you just said that word. Like in the reaction to my last episode, actually, with the matchmakers, he was talking about women on billboards and how, he used to like be attracted to women in billboards. And he was describing how, the women's boobs are out and they're wearing tight dresses. And I was like, I cannot believe my dad just used the word boob. So there've been some moments where I'm just like, oh my God, that's my dad. But he's true to himself, which I really respect. And he doesn't say anything too hurtful. I feel like if it was like offensive, like I know that he's coming from a good place and that he has a good heart. So I want him to be able to express himself freely.
That's cool. You mentioned, I can't recall which of your episode because I binged watched like a couple of them for like 2-3 hours. So you mentioned you were comfortable on radio versus video and now you are on video. So how did that shift happen?
That's a great question. So I wanted to be better on video. And I think it's like anything else. If you want to get good at interviewing, you interview. If you want to get good at writing, you write. If you want to get better at exercise, you got to make time for it. So
Practice.
Gradually, I got better by doing it.
So you put in the reps and here you are.
Sometimes I was just going to say, sometimes I put on more lipstick than others, sometimes like today I'm like, we're hitting it off first thing in the morning. Like I don't feel as put together, but the more you do it too, the more vulnerable and more comfortable you become. And if there's good rapport with the other person, then you can just be yourself.
So when you were on camera, so there are two things that happen. First is people get conscious, like they are being recorded and then they forget what they were going to say. And the other kind of people are like, they're cool on camera and sometimes it also happens like you right before the recording you had something that just killed your mood for the recording and then you are on camera and you carry that mood. So how do you deal in such two situations?
Definitely like what happens right before does play into the conversation. I will say like right before this, I had one kid that slept in this morning and I was kind of running late. And so I picked up a little Starbucks Frappuccino and the caffeine always helps. When I was working in television, I would play like pump up music, like a good song. Sometimes I'll go for a run before an interview. If I have like an interview where I'm kind of intimidated by the person, or they've accomplished a lot in their career and I've been preparing for it for a while and I just need to like relax so that I'm not over anxious, I'll go for like
Mhm.
either a 30-minute walk or a quick run, like right before, just to like clear
Mhm.
my mind.
Exactly. So, you have a God gifted talent for connecting with people, stacking relationship, opening opportunities. When was it that you first realized of your power?
Oh, that's a great question. I think looking back, it probably stems from my first job opportunity of working in casting and booking
Mm.
stories for Jerry Springer, because when you're able to go through hundreds of calls and get people to hop on a plane and spill their story on national television, then you're like, oh my God, like I found that story. I got them out on stage. And that, I think I did start to realize it there that not everybody can do that.
Hmm. And then you realize that's your superpower, and that's why you are rocking everything.
Oh,
You
you're
rock
so
your professional
sweet.
life.
It took me years to realize that was my superpower, but now that I'm doing it again, I feel more all in on it. I do feel
Mm.
like that's the way that I can contribute. That's the way that I can help shine light on people's voices that I want to highlight or that I feel like are doing good work. And if you have a platform and all of these people are coming your way, it's such a great opportunity to collaborate. I mean, I've now interviewed over 300 and probably 50 people. I
Mm.
wouldn't say that everyone would be capable of connecting with that many people and getting that many people to tell them their story in a vulnerable way.
And even reaching out to such people, and not getting exhausted by the whole process.
I love that you said that because honestly, I could spend all day researching one person and not get sick of it.
Exactly.
Yes, like if I find somebody interesting, I will look at all their social media, I'll listen to them on podcasts, I will research other people in their field, I'll read their books. And sometimes one story leads to another story. I like to go deeper. So like if I interview someone and I love them, then maybe I'll interview their son or maybe I'll interview their father or maybe I'll interview someone else in their family. Since I have a family show, I kind of like to extend out into their family.
Yeah, I really love that your children, your daddy, everyone is like gelled to your show, and the music is super fun as well.
Thank you. Yeah,
Your artwork is cool.
I worked with an artist to write the words and have the song created. And I think next season, if I'm brave enough, I might go into a studio and instead of having the artist sing it, I might try to sing it and see how that
Wow.
goes.
You have studied singing, right?
Yeah, I did in high school and in college. And it's funny because recently, from just having put myself out there, I had this rapper reach out to me and he started
Mm-hmm.
sharing his music with me and I loved his beats and his words, and he had like a voice track in the back and it was kind of the key that I used to sing in. So I ended up singing the voice track and just sending it to him privately and he was like, "Whoa." He was like, "What key do you sing in?" He was like, "We should totally collaborate." So that kind of also like gave me a little confidence where wow, like maybe I could collaborate with some different artists. I feel like that would be like a next
Mm-hmm.
fun step to like make my show different. Maybe there was another podcaster, Bruce Chamoff. He's also a musician. I've had a bunch of musicians on because I love music. And I heard Bruce like singing a song with his new girlfriend and I was like, "Hey, she's a soprano, I'm an alto. Maybe we could all like put together a piece." So it's like the
Mm-hmm.
more people that you collaborate with that do things that you want to be doing, it leads to such cool things.
Interesting. And you've booked high profile guests for podcast. Tell me more about it. How did you get in touch with them?
It's being hip to all of your resources, really. So, Howard Schultz, I saw he was speaking at my college. And so it's like the things that you've done in your life. Like if you're a graduate of a university, then you might want to subscribe to their newsletter. Like, so you know if they're having huge speakers at your school or if there's an event in the city that you're currently living in where you might be able to network with people that you went to school with. So I saw that he was speaking at my alma mater and I then reached out to my school to see, if they might be able to put me in touch. And then through my school, I got a name of who was managing his media campaign, and then I directly reached out to her. So, and also if you're working for a podcaster that gets 500,000 downloads a month, then most people want to be on there. I mean, that's how I was able to get her Barbara Corcoran as well, is, influencers care about the number of eyes and ears that you're going to get on them. And that's how I was able to get Jerry Springer. Truthfully, I had reached out to his publicist, and even though I was in touch with her for 20 plus years, I had an influencer reach out to me that wanted to do like a promotional swap. So her name was Kale Lowry, and her podcasting agency reached out to me and said, "Hey, I'm getting ready to launch a new show. Would you be interested in doing a swap for 50,000 impressions?" And I was like, "Well, I know you're going to be able to get that a lot quicker than I am. As long as you're cool with however long that takes me, yes, I would be willing." And so I had reached out to Jerry to get an interview, and it was like yes, and then no, and then yes, and then no. And so I reached back out and was like, "Hey, Kale Lowry is going to promote me. She's going to get me a lot of eyeballs. Let's do the interview at the time where she can promote the episode, because then I'll be able to get you the most listens." So that worked out. So it's kind of like figuring out what makes it worth it for the other person to be on your show sometimes. Like celebrities want to know, like, hey, you've got an email list of 30,000 people. You've got listeners of however many. You get X number of downloads. You're going to put it on your website. You're going to put it on social media. The more ways in which you can promote the episode, the more ways in which you can sell the opportunity, the better chance that you'll be able to secure a celebrity. In fact, I've had celebrities say, I only go on shows that have a blog, because blogs get a lot of SEO and it makes them more searchable. And at the time I didn't have one. So I was like, oh, wow, maybe this is something I need to start. So I just recently started a blog, like within the past 6 months. And I also recently updated my website because I won a contest through Namecheap and they helped make it over. So it's like figuring out what these celebrities want in order to, have that opportunity.
Keep your eyes and ears open.
Definitely.
And how did then you seem to be a people person, and you have a huge network of people in your circle. So how do you keep up with them? So like every 6 months, what is your procedure?
Yeah, that's a great question too. I will say the people that have been on my show, I try to give priority to. I try not to be a one and doneer, which means, they come on my show and then I never talk to them again. If I had a good connection with somebody and we've done a meaningful collaboration, then I try to support their content. I try to check in with them periodically. I also try to figure out other ways that we can continue the conversation. So occasionally I'll do like LinkedIn Lives. I do LinkedIn Lives with people, or I'll do Instagram Lives with people. I've even considered doing like a Twitch stream with someone. It's like finding out different ways to collaborate with the same people, because that's how your retention is high and that's how you build upon the relationships. And then, the more you post, the more connections you have. So just rinse, recycle, repeat. If you have a good connection with somebody, try to build upon it, versus just collecting new people. Try to build upon the ones that you have and nurture what you've got. That has kept my retention levels pretty high in who listens to my show.
Interesting. And so when you and a guest are conversing, how do you make sure that the audience feels connected?
That's a great question too. I will say, I think I keep the audience connected because I have a private Facebook group where a lot of times I will ask the audience questions pertaining to the guests that I'm going to interview. Also, if I'm going to interview someone and they have a lot of connections on LinkedIn, I'll see who were the last 5 people that recommended that person. And I'll be like, hey, I'm getting ready to interview so-and-so. Looks like you wrote them a stellar recommendation. Is there anything that you are dying to know about the person, or anything that you would like to ask them if you were interviewing them? And then I'll shout out people even sometimes in episodes that give me a great question. Or I'll mention them in my show notes, or I'll send them the episode after and be like, thank you for that awesome question.
Got really cool ideas.
Thank you. These are things I've just learned along the way. I don't like some of these things too, like I wish people would do to me, you know? Yeah.
Interestingly enough, people are so consumed in themselves and what they'll get out of you that they rarely think about the other person. And that's
Yeah.
where
It's
they
so
lose.
true. It's so true. And if you go above and beyond for people, like it stands out because so few people do it. Like
Mm.
if you share their content just completely out of the blue, they're like, oh my God, thank you.
Mm.
So just sharing people's content with like a meaningful comment versus just commenting on their post, but actually sharing it is such a rapport builder.
Mm-hmm.
There are people that have been on my show that I actually love their interview style. I love the content that they make. I mean, it's not that I just wanted to be on their show. I actually respect what they're doing. And so I listen to their episodes. I share their episodes. I tell them I like their guests because so few people do that.
Yeah. Especially in the podcasting world, it's very hard to get a feedback.
Exactly. If you can be a feedback loop, that's like a needed role.
So we have these tools like, I forgot the name. There's this tool, I just recommended it to one of my clients. You can send a voice message and then the host will hear it and they can incorporate your audio message in their episode. There's this tool. I can't recall the name
Is it
though.
Braid It? Braid It does that too, where, well, Braid It's a new tool that I started using. Basically, you kind of like on Instagram where you can make a poll.
Mm-hmm.
So you can ask a question and it creates like a QR code, and then somebody can scan the QR code and they can make you a video response, or they can make a comment response. And then you can take the videos, you can edit them in app, you can add music, you can add your branding, you can add graphics, whatever, and it will string them all together.
Whoa. But this is just the audio version.
Okay. That's cool too, though. But yeah, just ways to engage with your current audience. Even Spotify is doing that now with polls and
Yeah.
stuff. I love
Yeah.
polls. I try to mix it up between polls and like questions and sharing videos. Like you don't want to share too many clips. I would say like every fifth post should like be a clip. So I'll do like a clip, a motivational quote, a sharing of somebody else's stuff, a question for the audience. I try to mix it up.
Because it gets monotonic, you know, you're just posting videos, and then people, they just recognize a pattern. Okay, this person's posting videos, I'm done, I'm just scrolling. This person is posting, and it works the other way also. Like if you're not if you're really good at those videos or, you know, the text posts, then people just see more and they read. But if you're not good at it, like you're not improving, then they'll just scroll above.
Yeah, and that's why too I think it's so important to collaborate with other content creators, because like you're giving me new ideas, they've discovered things that I haven't discovered, I've discovered things that they haven't discovered, but if you collaborate with creatives, you're going to get better.
Exactly. And everyone has their own way of, you know, looking at things, their own perspective to add. So that helps you create your own perspective by listening to their perspective.
100%. I mean, honestly, like I was thinking to myself today about this conversation, this is exactly what I love doing. I love collaborating with other content creators, other creatives, other people that enjoy what I do. Like I was looking forward to it just simply for that. And I think that you should be open to anybody else that is doing what you want to be able to do, because you will learn from them. You will gain, you will get better from like versus seeing them as competition. Like figure out ways that you can support each other and grow together.
There's enough for everyone.
It's really true. I mean, and there's so many different places to find creatives and content creators. Like I've met a ton of people off Twitter. Twitter has a whole podcasting community, and it's really interesting because you know, there's pods there, there's pods on LinkedIn. I feel like and I love too when you connect with someone on one platform and then it leads to them connecting with you on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and then you see how they behave differently on each platform. and you get to know them better and differently, which I love that too. So I would even encourage, if you have people that you love from Instagram and they're not big on LinkedIn, be like, hey, let's connect on Twitter. Let's connect on LinkedIn. Like, I want to know you more.
What I really liked about Twitter is there are people promoting resources, which I don't see quite often on LinkedIn.
Yeah,
Like they
I
are
do
like
feel like
retweet and
yeah,
mhm.
it's more interactive, definitely more
Yeah.
engagement. I have pretty good engagement on Twitter, and not only do they promote resources, but I feel like podcasters all retweet each other's episodes.
Oh.
I've noticed that. Like, if you use the right hashtags, you can find a lot of podcasters.
I mean, the Twitter hashtags are still a thing.
Oh, yeah. I do like podcast and chill. I do podcast. I do content creator. If you search those hashtags, you will find a lot of podcasters.
Oh, I thought they were dead, so I just didn't get into them.
I would only put like 3 maximum, but you can search by them too. My feed is full of podcasters, which is great. I've met so many interesting podcasters there.
That's where I discovered you, by the way.
On Twitter?
Yeah.
I love
And
it.
then
See?
we connected on LinkedIn.
So cool.
And
yeah.
what I really liked about you is you were same across.
Thank you. I do try to adapt to the platform though.
Hmm.
So I try to make my posts maybe longer on LinkedIn, shorter on Twitter, also shorter on Facebook. And I feel like on Twitter, since the engagement is good, you can ask a lot more questions there about different topics, or even just like a funny quote that's happened in your day. I feel like people are a lot more like personable on Twitter.
Yeah,
Do you think that?
exactly. Yeah. Twitter is more fun. People are more raw, and
I agree.
yeah, they don't mask themselves with their professional self, and they open sharing resources. I've been to these spaces. One of my friend, he does spaces, and spaces are cool too.
Oh, yeah. I prefer the smaller spaces. Yeah. I actually have like my favorite Twitter space people. I have my favorite Instagram live people. I have my favorite LinkedIn audio people. And I think it's good to know who your people are on all the platforms and try to connect with them on other platforms too and deepen the relationships.
Totally. Reena, you have chat with multiple kind of people, from business leaders to phone sex workers, and basically people from different industries. So, other than studying them before you chat with them, and not being from the industry is a different portion to add to it, how do you establish comfort when you get on the call?
That's a great question. I was actually thinking about that today. I feel like I've gotten better at it. And one way to get better at it, like I was saying, alluding to a little bit earlier, is check out their content. What are the words that they use? What are they passionate about? What do they continually post about? And if they have a podcast, you want to listen to at least 2 or 3 episodes before you get on with them. And when you're listening to their episode, take notes of what you relate to, or what stops you, or what gets an emotional reaction out of you, because then you can dig deeper into something that they've already said. So if you like something that they said, I would start with that, because if they've said it and you liked it, then
There's this link that you
it
can
is.
establish.
Yeah, and I feel like that starts a conversation well.
Hmm.
Also, you could say something simply, if you know that they like creativity, or if you know that they speak about trauma, or if you know that there's, you're a part of the same Jewish community, find common ground. I would say that that's something too. If you both went to the same college, you got to see what they're talking about on their social media. Try to, if they've written a book, you definitely need to at least know that, read part of it, see who else has interviewed them, all of those types of things. Those are my secrets. And again, too, who else knows them? Who's their best friend? Who interacts on their posts? Can you get any insight from them?
Oh, this is like level 2 before you.
Level 2 stalking. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the other thing I like what you said was go to their LinkedIn recommendations and then get data from them as to what you can ask them, and just make the conversation easy flowing.
Not only that, but if you connect with the people who love them, when the episode comes out, you can revisit them and be like, hey, thank you for that great tip. Or, I'm glad that you love that person. I love that person too. Here, check it out. Like, you
Oh,
might enjoy this conversation. And then you've got 5 more people to send it to.
hmm. Interesting. You've got really cool ideas, Reena.
Thank you. Yeah. And I should do these ideas that I'm telling you probably even more than I do, but I do them. And
Hmm.
if you do a really good interview of someone's best friend or someone's best work colleague and you do a really good job, then they'll be like, oh my God, I loved that episode. Would you consider interviewing me? Like, I've had that happen multiple times.
Oh, this is cool as well.
So it just makes booking guests like so much easier because it's an
Easier.
extended conversation. And then if you have an extended conversation, you could be like, hey, if you liked this episode, then listen to the
Go back
previous
to
one on
that.
how it got
Yeah.
started.
Just like you did with the Indian matchmaker and then the Jewish matchmaker.
Exactly. Exactly. And when I first was doing the Indian matchmaking one, um, I've progressed so much further from there. So, but it's interesting to go back to that one and be like, how could I have expanded these conversations? And now I can ask some of the similar questions on the flip side.
It's
So
really cool.
monitor your progress, expand. Um, and also, I did reach back out to the Indian matchmaking interviewees when I was doing the Jewish version. And I was like, hey, did you watch the show? Is there anything that you would ask this host?
Wow.
Then hoping
Oh,
that they would
so
check it out. Yeah.
so basically the basic internet stuff. So basically I started this podcasting thing. There's this light bulb moment, eureka moment that happened with me earlier this year. During I think Feb or March, I happened to visit this man's LinkedIn profile. He's from the same industry. Happy to shout it him out. His name is Himmat Shaligram. Okay, and he had been producing a daily news podcast, and then he transitioned as a development producer or something into a podcast production company, and it's a really good they like really produce beautiful podcasts. So I really liked his journey, and the work he was doing. He had actually studied and wrote a thesis on podcasting. So I was really inspired, and I just wrote him a DM on LinkedIn like, your journey is so cool, and I would like to know how you landed up in podcasting. What was your journey like? And he was generous enough to hop on a call and chat with me for 30 minutes, and then it just extended. We spoke for 45-50 minutes something, and I was like, my god, all this while 1.5 years I had been googling stuff, reading blogs, YouTube videos, and the thing that he told me is it's very different from what I read online. And basically at that moment, what I learned was Google can give you answers, but people can give you experienced answers. So that's why I sit down here and converse with people like you who have real stories to share, and it will be beneficial if people in our community listen to it, and that will help them grow and level up as well. Because the things that you're sharing about marketing, researching about guests, these are all level 2 questions, level 2 suggestions which you haven't seen online.
Oh, good, good. Another trick too is I've gotten very interested in news stories. So if there's a news story that speaks to you, like one of the first news stories I did in Chicago was a kid that got cyberbullied and he ended up taking his own life. And
Oh,
I actually had a cousin that went to his school. He ended up transferring over bullying, and I had a son that was the same age as him. And so I found the parent's name on Facebook, and I led with that. I was just like, "Hey, I'm a mom of 4 and, I have a son your age, and this story really hit home. And I would love to, take you guys to a studio locally and make space for listening to your story and spreading awareness around it." And it was 2 months after it happened, and they totally did it. And I had to get my interview cleared through their attorney because they were in the middle of a lawsuit with the school. But it was such a learning experience, and just being able to be kind of like a local news anchor, right? Like they were on national news across the US, and yet just from reaching out in a heartfelt way, I could tell their story too.
Mm.
And so I would encourage you, if there's people that you feel like really speak to you, or a story that really touches you, people are reachable today. I have reached so many people that I never thought I would be able to reach, just simply by doing research. And you can see if they're on Twitter, see if they're on TikTok, see if they're on Instagram, see if they're on Clubhouse, contact them everywhere. Chances are you're going to be able to reach them somewhere.
I want to talk about two topics. First is Clubhouse, and the second one is bullying, as you mentioned. So people are faceless when it comes to cyberbullying, and if you are strong enough, I think people they can't put you down. Like if you have your support group, then it's easy to fight such people.
It's such like a heart-wrenching feeling. Like it makes your heart pound. It gives you that adrenaline. You're like on edge. So if you can call somebody that like doesn't put up with that, like that really does help. I had
Also,
a friend, yeah.
mhm.
I was just gonna say I had a friend growing up that was like, don't put up with that. Like you just need a couple friends that are like, don't put up with that. And I'm gonna tell them not to do that to you. You need somebody to stick up for you, or to like make you feel like you can stick up for yourself.
Also, anger brings out, the worst side of any person.
Ooh,
And the last thing you
yes.
want to do is be angry or get somebody angered, get somebody to be angry. So I don't know why people do that on purpose. Some people do it just for fun, and it just shakes the mental peace, and it's not good. I just don't support it. We had a segue, so no worries. We're getting back to Clubhouse. Clubhouse is dead.
I agree.
And
I haven't been on there in months.
we have LinkedIn coming up with audio events. We have Twitter coming up with audio events. They saw this opportunity that Clubhouse was bringing. And how do you see this whole Clubhouse and audio events playing into the social media? Like, how do you think people can leverage them?
That's a good question. I like smaller rooms, and I also like uncluttered rooms.
What do you mean by uncluttered rooms?
I guess that goes along with small, because if it's small, then I feel like more comfortable sharing my voice. If it gets
Mm.
to be too large, I feel like
Mm.
it's almost like you have an audience on and you're speaking on stage, and I feel intimidated by that. I feel like if it's a small room and the people are welcoming in it, I feel more comfortable sharing my voice. If I see 300 and 400 people in there and they're bouncing all over the place with their topic, I guess that's what I mean by cluttered. If there's
Mm.
a topic and they're keeping to it and they're giving good information, then I don't mind if it's 300 or 400 people. I like to be a fly on a wall. I feel like LinkedIn actually does that pretty well, where I feel like there have been some companies, even this past week, I listened to one with Fast Company. They were doing like one about marketing or something, and I sat in there for a little bit, but they had like 5 speakers and they had a curated topic, and you could tell that it was prepared beforehand, and I think they were even going to repurpose it as a podcast. Twitter, people that do that, it's probably not as good a quality unless it's a professional, but I feel like
Hmm.
the Twitter spaces are good for community building.
Wrong. Yeah.
It was like
So
what
I.
Clubhouse wanted
Mhm.
to do in the beginning, but Clubhouse
Mhm.
became too cluttered with like a zillion topics, and just people trying to become influencers on there, and people trying to make money on there, and people trying to like sell their services on there. I was like, oh, this like takes away from that like I want to get to know you thing.
Also, what I think Clubhouse did wrong was they had this profile and you could list all your Instagram, LinkedIn. So they built a platform that allowed people to get together and talk, but they didn't allow it to, be one on one. So people were jumping off of platforms and, connecting outside of Clubhouse as well. They were going on. I mean, that happens eventually. It happens on with the other platforms as well. But what I saw the trend going was people were meeting each other on Clubhouse, but they were connecting with each other on Instagram. Like they were following each other's content on Instagram, and uh, it I mean, the long lasting relationship was built on other platforms versus Clubhouse, because Clubhouse eventually, I think people got bored and not many were. I think the same happened with Threads, but now Instagram is reviving it.
I was going to say that too. Like, I don't feel like Threads has really taken off. It was hot there like when it first came out. And then I feel like people are like, I don't know how to interact here. Like, I'm not 100% sure what I should be posting. Should I be using hashtags? Should I be directing them elsewhere? Should I just be resharing content from other platforms? I feel
But
like people don't know how to operate there, and there's no real clear direction or anyone telling you what to do.
yeah, but Instagram is going hard on it. And they are posting, they're sending recommendation and notifications.
I did notice that. And it does get me to click from one
Click.
platform to another.
Yeah.
Have you?
Yeah, me too.
So that did work. Yeah, it does catch your
Yeah.
attention. It breaks through the noise when you see these little status update type of things.
Hmm. But they could just simply add it on Instagram as a feature rather than building a standalone platform for that.
I agree. I
They took
agree.
the fight with Elon seriously.
Yeah, I agree. I love the polls on Twitter, although I wish on Twitter you could tell who answered what.
Oh,
Like
you
you
can't
can't
see
tell
that?
who selected
Hmm.
which answer. You can't tell
You
who
can do that on
interacted with the
LinkedIn.
poll. Only on LinkedIn.
Hmm.
I like on LinkedIn where if you do a poll, you can see
Who's
who
selected
selected
what?
what, and then you could follow up with them and be like, "Oh, you still believe the American dream is alive? Tell me more."
Hmm. One of your latest posts, right?
Yeah, yeah. That was actually so I interviewed a lady, Batia Unger Sargon. She is an opinion editor at Newsweek, and I wanted to get her stance on the Israel-Gaza conflict. And her next book that she's writing, she interviewed 1,000 people across the US on the American dream. And so I kind of wanted to like cue that up as like my
Hmm.
next conversation that I'm going to have with her.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. So, Reena, you have hosted like 300 plus guests, and you've also guested on several other shows. So, how has your experience as a guest been like? What do you think the host did wrong?
Mm. There have been shows where the host is like, "So, tell me about yourself." That I wish that they would kind of lead me more into what they want to know, like which area they would like to know about my life. Like people are multifaceted, I do try to tell people like
Hmm.
I'm a mompreneur. I produce multiple podcasts. I love to sing. I worked in reality TV. There's lots of different parts that we can talk about. So it's good to know what kind of show you're going on to. It's good to check out the content that they do before you agree to do the show so you know what you're getting into. Also, like on my show, I always ask people at the end, like, hey, is there anything that you'd like to ask my dad? Or is there anything that your dad taught you that you would like to leave us with? So if you're going on a show and a show has a format, it's good to know, like, are they going to do a Rockin' 8? Are they going to do like fast, fun questions at the end? Are they going to ask you, what is your take on legacy? It's good to
Hmm.
research who you're talking to know if you're going to get put on the spot with a, hey, tell me about yourself. Also, I've been on shows where it just didn't flow at all. And then you have to be able to fill in for hosts that don't know where to go.
Oh, I have seen this with, I was editing an episode, and the host was asking these bulleted questions one after the other, question one, question two, question three. And the host was couldn't lead the conversation. But the guest was so interesting and so profound with his answers. I was like, wow. He answered stupid questions with such beauty that I felt like, give me more, give me more. And, even if he spoke for like 1 hour, I would listen to him. He was that kind of good. He was very good at communication.
That's amazing. Yes. I will say the more podcasts that you're on and the more questions that people ask you, you kind of have that in you. So if there
The
is a
stories to
host,
tell.
yeah, if there is a host that doesn't know what to ask you, you might be able to bring up some of the questions that you're most frequently asked and kind of help them along.
Agree with that. And then what I've noticed, good speakers have stories to tell. They fill in their answers with stories, and that allows the host as well to get comforted. Like both of us, like I have a list of questions that I need to cover. It's not a need, but it's good if we hit on them. But it's so easy talking with you that I just opened up. Right.
Thank you for doing that. I love that you gave me a little bit of you being a daddy's girl and a little bit about your sister, and that you liked my matchmaking episode. So that in itself gives me insight into you.
Mm. And then even if you just ask those question answer format, you don't get to know the other person because they are giving you, tailored answers. And then that
if
doesn't
I
open
were
room.
to interview you now, I would want to dig deeper into the parts that you gave me of you. So I made a mental note for myself, and I'll probably write it down afterwards, like what you divulged. So that's how you're able to keep the conversation going and go deeper, is pay attention to the little bits that people give you in the interview too. It makes it like a more fluid conversation.
As opposed to a question answer format.
Which is fine. I mean, obviously, if you're having people on your show, there's things about that person that you want to know, and cool, you can totally have questions. But yeah, throw in a little storytelling, throw in a little bit about yourself, make it a little back and forth. That makes it more interesting, I think.
Me too.
And more fun.
Yes. Okay, so the first thing that you need to do after you have, recorded the content and edited it is drive listeners to your social media, and word of mouth is huge. So with Better Call Daddy, you have these amazing guests coming to your show, and then there's this, it takes time to produce the episode, right? Like suppose we record it today and it takes like say a month for the episode release. And then what happens is during this one whole month, you are not keeping up with the guest. And it's very likely that they don't promote your content. They might not even like your post, respond. They'll ghost you because there was no conversation in, between the release and between the time you recorded and release. So do you have any tips around that?
I do. That's funny. Well, one way that I engage with them in that time between recording the episode and 4 to 6 weeks later it coming out is I will comment and share their posts and what they're up to in between. And when I record the reaction with my dad, I might message them and say, oh my God, my dad just loved your story. I just recorded the reaction with him. It's coming soon. Or I just recorded the reaction with my dad. It's coming out in two more weeks. It's going to air on this date. So I try to engage with them before that 4 to 6 week period. And I might even give them a piece of what my dad said to keep the conversation going, so they kind of even remembered what we talked about. Another thing is, too, when I send the episode to my guests, if I have time, I might give them like highlights from the conversation, like copy of what to use in the post, because you want to make it as easy as possible for them to post it. So not only are you giving them a graphic or a clip and all the links to the episode, that's kind of like bare minimum, but you also want to be like, here's some ways that you could promote it on Twitter, or, I'm going to be promoting you on Twitter, on Threads, on LinkedIn. I'm going to be making you a collaborator on Instagram. If I make you a collaborator, would you feel comfortable sharing that to your feed? So it's kind of letting them know where to expect to find you and where and how they can promote it.
Have you had a experience with a guest who wasn't responsive with the episode turnout?
Yes. I mean, there's nothing you haven't experienced if you've done 300 episodes. I've not recorded. I've had crappy audio. I've re-recorded and then it was crappy twice. I've not aired guests. I've I-
How did you communicate, not airing guests,
that
sorry,
is
the recording didn't turn out well, we conversation was not up to the mark. What do you tell them?
uh I've tried all of those. I've you kind of are like, what kind of person is this, right? Like, can you be like, just yeah, it didn't work out. I've done that. That doesn't really go over so well. I've done, like, somebody asked me to edit out a chunk. I said it's probably better instead of editing out chunks to just not air it. And, I enjoyed the conversation with you, but if there's parts that you want to take out, I feel like that takes away from the authenticity. I don't really do that.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah,
and
your
then,
show is no censored,
yeah,
no
it's
censor show.
it's really not. Yeah. Um, I do feel like it's better not to air versus if somebody's like uncomfortable and they express that to you, because I'd rather not air it than air it and then ask me to take it down.
Mm.
But back to what was your original question there that you asked me? I wanted to answer that and I've totally forgot what you asked.
I asked you, people don't promote the episode that they
Oh, don't
guest on.
promote the episode. Yes. I have had a few of those, and I think it just comes with the territory. You do your best in doing a good interview and putting a quality interview together, and very
If they
few, very
Mhm.
few haven't promoted it. And to be honest, some of the celebrities just won't unless they have a team, or unless they have a publicist, or unless they're active on social media. You just kind of got to know who you're dealing with. Most
Hmm.
people will promote it, and most people, if you re-promote it in a new way, will love that. So you got to come up, like, I just did an Instagram live with somebody who I had on like a couple months ago, and just doing an Instagram live with someone and re-listening to the episode and talking about the highlights from the episode or my dad's reaction and what they're up to now, and then sharing your Instagram live and then resharing the episode, I think is a great tactic.
Mm-hmm. Totally. I recall one of your tweets from Twitter. You had asked, I think, how many of podcasters do you know have their show monetized, or some? It was something around that, and then you retweeted it or something. So uh, is Better Call Daddy monetized? I
So
mean, I know it was on air with this. I'm very bad at pronunciation. KEWL.FM. How do you pronounce it?
Cool.fm. Yeah, I was doing a
Cool.fm.
radio show for about 9 months.
Mm-hmm.
How I monetize is I have clients, you know, and I think that that is the better way to monetize versus ads. Although, Namecheap completely made over my website, and I absolutely love them and believe in their brand, and so I do promote them on my show, and I do have an affiliate deal with them. I have a couple affiliate deals where I make a little bit of money. Cast Magic is another one.
Cast Magic is cool.
I love Cast Magic. It's super easy to use. It saves me a ton of time. You just take an MP3 or an MP4, you drag it into Cast Magic. It transcribes your whole episode and gives you SEO optimized title ideas. Are they perfect? No, but like they give you a really good starting point where
Mm.
you can tweak them to your liking. I love Cast Magic. I've been using them for about 27 episodes now, and I've recommended them to a bunch of friends. I only recommend things that I actually use. And so
Mm-hmm.
that is why I feel like getting monetized that way is tricky, because you're not going to make a whole lot of money on the model of relying on sponsors. They just don't pay that
Mm.
much. I mean, I have been paid by sponsors, and I have had people that were on my show that wanted to sponsor, say, 25 episodes, and I'll charge them 100 a pop or something like that. And that can work for a short time, but you're not going to like make a living off of that. So I think it's
Mm-hmm.
better to monetize your guests, right?
Mm.
And what I mean by that is create good relationships with the people that are on your show that you would like to work with, and see how they might be able to use your services. That has worked better for me.
Lovely. And talking sponsorships, how do you find the right sponsors? Like you said, you use their products, and if you really like them, you promote it to your audience. So, what is like the vetting process? How do you find right sponsors and reach out to them?
I mean, honestly, now at this point, I've had different companies reach out to me, but before, yeah, it was, I love this food product, or I love this liquor brand, or I love this tool. And it is like trying different things that are in your immediate use and
Mhm.
make a post for them, see if you can get their attention, see if they're active on Instagram, see if they're active on Twitter, have a conversation with them. But yeah, I was recently even reached out to by Braid It, that other company that I mentioned earlier. Shout
Yeah.
out to Braid It. And I love what they're doing. And I love the founder. He's super approachable, and he's met with me personally multiple times, like showing me new features and showing me how to use it and collaborating in social media. The best way to actually bring people to an app or to use your product is one-on-one. You're not going to get that many new clients by just putting something in your show notes. You're just not. But if I like something and I'm actually going to use it, I'm going to refer you every podcaster I know if I believe in your
Mhm.
product.
Mm.
So it would be
Also,
smart of companies to partner with people who have good relationships with their audience, because they will personally introduce you, and then make it easy for them on the affiliate deal too. Personalize the code for them, set it up for them, make them a special integration with their website. If a brand wants to work with an influencer or wants to work with a podcaster, it has to be mutually beneficial, and you have to make yourself accessible and show them how to best use the tool. Don't just like leave them out there figuring it out by
mm,
themselves, right?
exactly. So what are your plans ahead for the next year? Because we are almost at the year end.
I cannot even believe the year is almost over and I have so many people on the calendar. I think that's what it's about. Just continue to build, continue to nurture, continue to deepen the relationships that I have. My dad's still into it. So as long as he's into it and I have my support system, send me all the daddy stories.
What are the top lessons that you have learned from your dad?
The top lessons that I've learned from my dad:
Mm-hmm.
everyone needs encouragement. That's the number
Oh,
one. That's the biggest thing that's come out of this. And I see that. The biggest hidden wonderful thing that came out of this is that my dad's encouragement is like honestly my guest's favorite part. It's like a present to my guests to be able to give them my dad's reaction. They all want to know, like, did your daddy like me? Did I get your dad's approval? Like, what's your daddy going to say? What does he think about this topic? So that's been really fun. And it's kind of validating too. Like, I knew he was cool, but hearing it from so many other people has been like so good for our relationship. Like, he loves it too. And it's
what
not even
does
like, sorry, go ahead.
what does he like about you?
What does he like about me?
Hmm?
I'm just like him.
Oh, like
I
father, like
am my
daughter.
daddy's daughter. And I think it's been like therapy for us. It's been a bonding experience for us. It's been a growth opportunity for us. It's led to business. It's led to speaking opportunities. It's led to amazing collaborations. He looks forward to it. And so that keeps me looking forward to it.
This is so cool. And what about your children? Do your children plan to, carry forward the legacy of Better Call Daddy?
I wish, but you know how kids never think what you're doing is cool. It's funny. I tried to encourage my high school son to participate in this local podcast here in Texas. Was looking for two high schoolers to host an oil and gas podcast. I was like, I'll shoot it. I'll tell you what to say. I'll research your guests for you. He was
Oh,
like, I would rather play
you're such a
basketball.
good mommy as well.
But he didn't want it. He didn't want it. He was like, maybe next year. And like, over the summer, he wanted a summer job, and I took my daughter to a birthday party ice skating, and I went up to the head of the ice skating rink and I was like, hey, are you hiring anyone to like wipe down skates? And she was like, actually, I am. So I got him a job doing that. And he's just like, I want to work out. I want to do basketball. I'm like, okay, a mommy can only try so much. But I'm hoping that what they take from it is, if there's something that you love and something that lights you up and it's a talent that you want to develop, to do it. If you want to be a writer, if
Mm,
you want to be a makeup artist, if you want to be a workoutaholic, do it. Keep doing it. Do what makes you happy.
exactly. I love that you bring this to the forefront because my journey started like this. I studied engineering. I was in academics, engineering 3 years of diploma, 3 years of degree, 3 years of master, 1 year master preparation, 1 year, 2 years of masters, 9 years I studied engineering. I got my dream job. I did an internship for 6 months, and right 3 months into it, I realized I can't do this for the rest of my life because this was during the peak of the pandemic. I was so fortunate and blessed to have been, because there were hiring freezes happening all across the world. People were not taking up new candidates in their company, and I got a job, and I was the first one in my department to get placed. And I took up 3 months into it. I was like, I can't sit behind a computer with no human interaction all the day, and I don't see my life going ahead like this. And I just sat down crying one day, and my dad was there, and he looked at me and he was like, okay, you know nothing other than, studies. So you want to become a teacher? So I'm like, no, I don't want to become a teacher because I don't think I know anything. Then he asked me, okay, so let's get you married. Let's fall back on mummy's plan. And I was like, no, I'm not going to get married. So then I asked him for a year. I told him, if you give me a year, if I'm not able to do something, I not figure out something, then I'll do whatever you say. I'll join a business, I'll get married, but just I need this one chance. And then he trusted me. And, there were a lot of people who were saying, like, what is the point? You can get her placed at some other company. But then he was like, no, she's asked for a year. We'll see after. And fortunately, God's blessings, I've been able to carve my own path. And here I am today.
Oh
So
my
dad's
God.
support is really a big portion of my life too.
I love that. I am so proud of you. That is awesome. Heck yes. I was actually pre-med for 3 years and switched my major after completing
Oh,
all the hardest classes. Like I did organic chemistry and bio and calculus. And yeah, my junior year, I was like, I totally do not want to be a doctor. I had like 500 clinical hours working with different sports teams, and
500 is
I was like, I
huge.
won an award for like the most clinical hours my freshman year. And literally my junior year, I was just like, I don't want to do this. And I switched my major
Mm.
from pre-med to communications and broadcasting.
Oh. So
Crazy.
what made you, like, how did you figure out it was communications and broadcasting?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, my family always wanted to work in entertainment. My
Mm.
grandfather did the lights on Broadway. He did a lot of like stage work. I feel like they had a love of the arts, a love of music. I always had a love of music. And there was a radio station on campus, and I walked in and told them I wanted to work in radio, and I got an opportunity. And so I worked in radio for a couple years, my last 2 years of college, and I just loved it. It felt like my element. It felt like what I loved doing. And in between reading the news and the weather, I would literally record myself in the booth, like just making my own mixtapes and singing and having fun and playing with all the equipment. So, yeah, I think it was in me.
Do what you love.
Yeah, definitely.
The destiny found us, you could say, because I see on Instagram couple of my friends, they post these, oh, tomorrow is a Monday memes, and I feel so sorry for them. I'm like, just quit your job, you'll figure out something. And I don't know, I feel pity on such people, but you have to take that risk, bet on yourself. If things fall apart, then put your face down. You'll get through those times, and there will be sunshine again. This is what I feel. I
A
believe,
hundred
actually.
percent. 100%. And I'm just going to give you this too, because I recently just left a radio job. Um, Things can be good and things can also be better. Things can be good, and they talked about that in the matchmaking. Things can be good, but you want great.
Hmm.
And go for opportunities that light you up, that give you that adrenaline, that push you to be better. And that is how you will be successful. When you
Hmm.
get that feeling that this isn't what you want to be doing anymore, don't be scared to find something that you're excited about again, because it's so easy to put up with something for longer than you want to. but your body doesn't lie. Like, listen to that gut instinct of, I don't want to be doing this. I want to find something that I want to be doing. Life is too short. Chase the
Exactly.
opportunities that light you up.
Also, people who are, in such jobs that they don't enjoy, they just live weekend to weekend. And you can see that they're even lifeless on weekends because it's the Monday morning that's in their head and they don't even enjoy the weekend. So they're present, but they're not present.
Very true.
We are fortunate that we were able to take that plunge and, leap of faith.
Heck yes.
It is so easy to converse with you, Reena. You create the room, the space for others to open up. This I didn't know about you by engaging with you on Twitter and LinkedIn. Yeah, and as I also got to know you have like really cool ideas of networking with people.
Thank you so
And
much. I am so glad that you found me, and I would love to have you on my show too.
oh, I would love to guest on your show as well.
For sure. Now that I know that you're a daddy's girl, totally my people.
I call my daddy Santa Claus because he never says no. He never returns home without either, eatables or gifts or something like that. Never to date. And he's always been my cheerleader.
Oh, I love that. Well, I'm glad that you have that relationship too. It's really a blessing in this world.
Totally agreed. Thank you so much, Reena. It has been fun conversing with you. Before we wrap up, do you have any parting words?
Find an encourager, whether it's your dad, whether it's a friend, whether it's a sibling, whether it's yourself. You need that in today's world more than ever.
Wise advice. I hope to collaborate with you more, Reena, in the future. And thank you so much for spending your time with me and
Thank
all your
you.
insights. Thank
Absolute
you.
pleasure.
Hey, if you have a podcast and want to grow your show, check out my ebook 7 Strategies to Grow Your Podcast, Real Case Studies Included. The link is in the description.